Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today we are taking a look at all the currently revealed spoilers for the Into the Inklands set 3 of Lorcana. We've got 41 cards to look at. I haven't done any reviewing for the cards that have come out so far, bar one or two that came at the same time as the announcement to Into the Inklands, but the majority of these I've not spoken about on the channel, so it's going to be exciting to have a look through all these. We're going to be reading flavor text, we're going to be bursting into song. Will I be able to stop singing and stay on point? Who knows? But that is the theme of today. A couple of bits of admin. First of all, thank you to those that have shown support to my last video, which is my complete tournament run of Ruby Amethyst in my run of the pack Return of the Mim event. Unfortunately, the algorithm really did not like the length of it. So I think in the future, when I do big tournaments like that, I will keep it to under an hour. And I know that's the majority of people prefer shorter content, but I know there are some viewers out there that like longer form content, and I don't mind doing it, but with that much work to go into something which the algorithm just doesn't like, and it's not even a matter of just, okay, well, that video did badly. It hurts me in general. If you upload too many flops, then it can really hurt your position. So I think in future, again, unless in the next couple of days there's a miraculous surge in that video, and again, I don't expect it to see my top numbers, but it is my worst performing video on the channel in a long while, so I don't want to make that a habit. So unless there's a miraculous rise in that in the future, I will probably always end up doing shorter, aim for the hour and under. In most cases, like for a top 8 deck reviews, we aim for 20 to 30 minutes, but for even gameplay, I'll be aiming for under an hour. Couple of other things. First of all, I am finally monetized on the channel. I was actually applicable for this about 5-6 weeks ago, but there was a technical issue with my application. I've been in contact with the YouTube team literally for the last 6 weeks trying to get to the bottom of it. It's been really frustrating, but finally last night it allowed me to put it through, so that is a relief, to be honest. I do need to start turning the investment of time I put into this, it needs to start reaping something for me. I know that. I feel a bit awkward saying that because I love doing it. I love entertaining. I've dedicated my life to being an entertainer, but I am committing pretty much all my time that isn't me seeing to my mum, caring for my mum, is going into this, and I'm really glad for it, but I need to start making some money from it, otherwise my life doing this just isn't sustainable over the next couple of years. So really glad to see that. They won't be live straight away, but pretty soon you'll see memberships live on the channel. If anyone is interested in becoming a member, I will be very grateful for it. There will be the end of the videos will always have the names of members on the last panel, giving a shout out, and sometimes I'll do vocal shout outs as well during videos. I want to think of some more perks that I can come up with for members. I've got a few ideas in the back of my brain. I'm not going to go too into it right now, but if you are able to and in a position to, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're not, then I completely understand. Not everyone is in a financial position to be able to do things like that. I completely understand that, so I'm just grateful for your view, for hitting the like button. So yeah, excited for things to come for the future of the channel. Now, last bit of business before we get into the card reveals. There's been some dialogue online recently about content creators feigning surprise and not talking about leaks. I do not and will not ever talk about leaks ahead of official reveals or acknowledge them publicly. Because of a few reasons, but the two most prominent that I'm going to mention right here, right now. Firstly, I think it really ruins reveal season. Reveal season is a really exciting time, and is unfortunate to have seen a spoiler, well, a leak, and then when the official reveal comes and like, new card revealed, oh my god, I'm really excited, let's see. Oh, I've seen that, and it takes it away. Like it's not as exciting. It takes some of the magic away from it. Also, I know a lot of people, even if they know that leaks are available, they like to avoid them. So that's another reason that I won't talk about them on the channel. And lastly, yes, I would like to work with Ravensburger. I would like to be able to do more card reveals in the future. I'd like to be able to work with them. The dream is to commentate. So, yeah, I'm not gonna tarnish that. And it might not happen anyway, but I'd like to have a chance of being able to do those sort of things. And I know some of you are thinking, Baker, you stutter far too much for commentary. And I know I do sometimes, but you always need some colour commentary. You need a Jerry the King Lawler, a Paul Heyman, a Booker T. You need the analytic who's going to sit there and talk about all the qualities of Donald Duck, perfect gentleman. And you need me who's there to go, chucky, ducky, quack, quack. So show your support for your boy. Anyway, I've waffled enough. Let's look at some cards. We're going to start off by looking at all of the locations, because there are a lot of cards in this set who interact directly with locations. So it's the big new theme of Into the Inklands, the new type of card that we've got. So we're going to start off by looking through all the locations, and then we'll look at all the reveals in ink order. Well, in like all of Sapphire, all of Ruby, etc. So we'll start off with a short reminder of how locations work for those that might not know or might just need a reminder. So yes, each location has a cost. It can be, so far they've all been inkable that we've seen, but I'm assuming they can also be uninkable. And yes, when you play the card, you put it horizontally as portrayed here. There are two numbers. This 6 represents the willpower, just like character cards, but the number on the left over here represents how much ink you have to pay to move a character to that location. Locations can, not always, but locations can also have lore. And if a location does have lore, at the set, or I think the ready part at the beginning of your turn in ready, set, draw, I think it's the ready part, you gain lore equal to the lore of your locations on the field. Locations do not prevent a character that's at that location from being challenged. You can still challenge the character. There's no limit to how many locations you can have in play. Removing a location that has characters in it does not immediately banish all of those characters. They just leave the location as the location goes to the discard pile. Characters don't have to wait for their ink to dry before they can move to a location. So if you put this down turn 2, on turn 3, you could put down a 2 cost and then pay 1 ink to move to the location straight away. A character can only be in one location at a time. Characters can move between different locations, but they can't move to the same location that they're already in. Once a character is in a location, they can't leave the location unless it's to move to another location. And yeah, for all intents and purposes, they're always considered exerted. Like in this horizontal position, you don't move their position at the beginning of your turn to gain the lore. They can always be challenged by opposing characters. So yeah, I think that's everything that you need to know about locations off the hat. So yeah, some locations have abilities, some don't. This is one that doesn't. 1 cost to move it there, 6 willpower, and gain 1 lore at the beginning of your turn. The thing to talk about really right at the start of talking about locations is, at current, all of them are banished to Maui. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They still need to have the Maui. They still need to, actually invest in challenging the location, which means they're not challenging one of your characters necessarily. So I'm not saying that, makes locations bad or anything, but it is just worth bearing in mind that, as it stands, all the locations we have are instantly removed to Maui. But there are other locations that can be removed with other characters. But yeah, worth mentioning. So yeah, locations brand new. They seem interesting. Like I said, there's a few character cards that have interactions with locations where we can see how they could start to be strong. This one right now, I don't think we have a lot to support it. Again, unless you count working with other ink colors, and there's a Ruby Jim Hawkins, which works well with locations, which we'll get to. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to say about this at the moment, other than, 6 is big and bulky. Other than Maui, they are going to struggle to take this out. Passive lore gain. We just need to see some more cards that make this beneficial to play. But yeah, fantastic art. Great to see Forbidden Mountain. So we've got Deville Manor, Cruella's Estate. 1 cost inkable, 1 to move there, and 4 willpower with a passive lore gain of 1. They say the old place is haunted or bewitched or some... Oh, it's the Colonel. They say the old place is haunted or bewitched or some fiddle-faddle. Art appreciation, absolutely stunning. Love that Cruella is the silhouette of the window here as well. Really beautiful art. And yeah, another a weaker location, so there are more characters that can potentially one-shot this, but it's cheaper. You're still getting your lore gain, so again, it's like no extra effect to talk about here, but it seems to be Emerald's vanilla location. So yep, love to see it. Next up, we got Agrabah Marketplace. Welcome to Agrabah, city of mystery, of enchantment, and the finest merchandise this side of the river. Love this art, beautiful. We've got 3 cost inkable, 1 to move there, 5 willpower, but a passive lore gain of 2. So a little bit more willpower. Like there's a Ruby Mulan from Rise of the Floodborn, which may become more relevant this format if some of the 4 willpower or less locations are good, but this stays out of range of that. And yeah, another location, the most lore that we've got on a location so far, so you've got to imagine this will be one which you can see why you'd want to get it out. That's some pretty strong passive lore gain if the opponent doesn't deal with it. So yeah, welcome to Agrabah. Next up, we've got Maui's Place of Exile. Beautiful art. Hidden Island. Nothing but boulders and sand. Easy to miss. 2 cost inkable. 1 cost to move there. 5 willpower. No lore gain, but instead the ability Isolated. Characters gain resist 1 while here. So we've seen the power of resist. Even things like Mouse Armor doesn't see a ton of play, but it pops up here and there. And this is just a better version of that, really. I mean, like, the difference is this can be challenged and removed that way, whereas Mouse Armor needs actual item removal. But you got to think this is a better way of doing it. But even if you take different examples like Cogsworth giving resist 1 to your characters, that can be huge. Against steel decks, resist is always strong. So yeah, 5. So you need at least a 5 strength if you want to one-shot this. I think I'm going to be using the rush characters as my sort of basis for a lot of this. So Maui obviously hitting the hardest, but being a 5 cost. And yeah, Mulan, who I believe is a 4 cost, but hits for 4. So these may be like, obviously Maui already sees play, but yeah, you've got to think about rush characters and how quickly they can deal with these locations. Of course, there's so much more of the set to see and other cards that I'm sure we'll see which hit locations, and a couple of which still to talk about today. But yeah, love this ability, love to see it. Next up, we've got Neverland, Mermaid Lagoon. This one was hinted at us on art for some of the products that we've had pictures for. The mermaids told Peter they'd seen some items floating by several days earlier, but they were more concerned that one of their sisters had gone missing. I mean, this is obviously Ariel that they're talking about. 1 cost inkable, so a nice cheap location. 1 to move there, only the 4 willpower, so Mulan's a nice quick answer. And 1 passive lore gain. So yeah, again, not too much that we can read into this really without looking at the characters that interact with locations. But yeah, Mermaid Lagoon, love to see it. I've been trying to stay off the love to see it since I highlighted it in the in a not long ago episode, but they're coming out in force because these locations, these are things we love to see. Montanui Island Paradise, certainly one of the more interesting ones so far. 2 cost inkable, 1 to move there. So far they've all been 1 cost to move there. I expect as we get more expensive locations, the cost will change. 5 willpower, so out of range of Mulan, and one passive lore gain, and an ability this time, Reincarnation. Whenever a character is banished while here, you may put that card into your inkwell face down and exerted. So really playing into Sapphire's ramp strategy, a really on-theme location for them to have. And yeah, I can absolutely see this being really strong. Ramp is always good, and now we've got a way of doing it with a location. Yeah, beautiful. And again, as we get more location support, you've got to think that the game's just getting faster and faster. But yeah, Montanui, great. And that's all of our locations so far, so we will refer to a couple of them as we get to the cards that specifically interact with locations. But now let's move on. We'll look at all the amber cards first. So first of all, we've got Heal What Has Been Hurt. This is beautiful. Look at this artwork. Well done, Monica. Action Song, 3 cost inkable. Remove up to 3 damage from chosen character. Draw a card. So we have cards that obviously like seeing damage removed. Grand Puppy is one of the first ones that comes to mind. But there have been other cards where the healing has not been necessarily the reason you play the card, but something that's a good extra to have that can sometimes be a big help. I imagine the main allure of this to people as it stands that will play this will be just on the fact that it's a song that lets you draw a card. So if you think of flute decks, it does have to compete with things like Painting the Roses Red, which is obviously cheaper and also draws another card and is playing a song. But in a world where removing this 3 damage is consistently an extra use as a response play, and again, like we don't know, we have no idea what the meta is going to look like, but there are worlds where being able to sing this and remove 3 damage keeps you out of range from a common play that the opponent might make against your deck as the meta starts to take form. Hope I've explained that correctly. But yeah, not much to say right now, but something you never know when it's going to pop up just because it's a song that draws a card, but beautiful art. Next up, one of the earlier reveals, we got Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain. Look at him. Just look at him, man. 2-cost Inkable, 2/2, Dreamborn Hero Pirate Captain. So more pirates, more captains. And I am the captain. While you have 2 or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 lore. So reminds me immediately of, we got Christopher Robin, who also benefits at the beginning of your turn if you have multiple characters out. So looking like that's going to be some of the theming for at least the Amber Winnie the Pooh characters. I'm sure we'll see more, where they'll all gain benefits just from having a big field. So yeah, and again, this plays into what a lot of Amber decks want to do, just extend the field. So I don't have the hugest of hopes for Piglet as current. We need to see more. We need to see more cards, and maybe the meta develops in a way where like extending big with Amber is one of the stronger ways to go, in which case maybe this makes Pooh makes his way in. But, you know, who knows? Could come up. So, yeah, love to see Piglet. Next up, we've got Dalmatian Puppy. Shout out to Rochelle in the Disney Lorcana Discord for having a lot of fun with the community, revealing multiple Dalmatian puppies, all with slightly different art, but all the exact same text. We've got 2-cost Inkable, 2/3 stat lines, Storyborn Puppy, which is, I think, a new subtitle, characterization, should I say. And the ability, where did they all come from? You may have up to 99 copies of Dalmatian Puppy Tail Wagger in your deck. So, lots to talk about these puppies. They're adorable, of course. Realistically, this is something that could absolutely come up down the line based on cards we get, and just how beneficial it is to have a large chunk of these in your deck. If we start, like, there's a card we're going to look at in a minute of a Pongo who looks at the top card of your deck, and if it's a character, adds it to your hand. If we start seeing some cards that do things, say things like, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may add any card named Dalmatian Puppy Tail Wagger to your hand. Depending on what the cost of that card is, there's a world where there's something here that we don't have enough pieces to this puzzle. But just like, immediately think, like, it's not really the same, but it takes me back to my Yu-Gi-Oh days and a card like Sinister Serpent, which in its earliest text, I believe it got errated, but back in my day, it was quite simply, if it's in your graveyard, you can add it back to your hand. So it was just constant, like, as use for something to discard, or it could be a monster that you put down on the field. But yeah, who knows? If we get a card that, like, does some sort of, like, deck search and adds a certain amount of puppies and rewards you for playing a high count of them, then just have it. And then, don't get me wrong, that in itself isn't enough. You've just got then a hand of puppies, which isn't always good. But with the right combination, then there could be something there. It's good, like, you wouldn't do this just to be strong against discard, but if you are against discard, I suppose there's a way of, you know, protecting yourself against that. We need to see more cards that support having a high count of puppies in your deck. But yeah, I think there's something here to be seen in the future. But yeah, love to see Dalmatian Puppy. We'll go straight on, look at the Pongo we just mentioned. We've got a Determined Father. We'll find our way. I know we will. 3-cost Inkable, 3/2 stat line, and the Twilight Bark. Once per turn, you may pay 2 ink to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. So, really nice ability in the fact that you don't have to exert for it. So you can just use this ability and then you're free to quest or challenge or just stay ready to be safe. And if you're running a high character count, like you look at Mufasa decks that are running, tends to be a max of 3 item non-character cards most of the time. Some will go higher, but majority of the time it's 3 max and sometimes none. Then you can get a lot of value off of this, off the fact that it is essentially just a draw a card per turn. Think of how good Beast is just because it allows you an extra draw. Don't get me wrong, you have to pay the 2 ink for this, so it is hugely weaker. But there is something here, especially, like you put this down turn 3, on your turn 4, you can still pay the 2 ink, search for a character, and then you've still got 2 ink to, like, in a perfect world, you're playing a lot of these low-cost characters, and obviously this is a small bit of synergy with playing a lot of Dalmatian puppies, and the fact that they're 2 cost, you can play this turn 3, and then turn 4, use the ability to pay 2 ink, and then you've still got enough to put a puppy down. So there already plays there. It's not enough, but we can kind of see a roadmap of where it might be going. But yeah, an interesting piece that could absolutely see its way into decks depending on how much more support we get for this sort of archetype. But yeah, great to see Pongo. And our last puppy card, we've got 99 Puppies. 5-cost uninkable. Whenever one of your characters quests this turn, gain 1 lore. So this reminds me of, I think it's Steal from the Rich from first chapter, the first set, which was basically the reverse of this, to take lore away from your opponent. Sees no play, never did. Maybe in multi-person format it would, but that is not a thing yet. I hope it is though. I really hope that there's an official circuit for multi-person play. But anyway, staying on topic. Yeah, I mean, again, plays into kind of the similar what we were talking about, the idea of just having a lot of low-cost characters that you can, like, draw a lot of early and then just extend the field. And hey, like, let's say we do get a card like what I just described. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Any Dalmatian puppy, tail waggers, or even put them on the field straight away. You know, I would assume exerted, or even like that their ink would be, they would have wet ink, so you wouldn't be able to take advantage of this immediately. But there's definitely a world where if a card like that comes out and is cheap enough, then like from turn 3 or 4, you could be doing this and just really going aggro quickly. So I don't know, I still feel like we need a bit more, but I'm not ready to write this card off completely, and super cute art. Next up, one of the newest ones, we've got Kida, Atlantean, Storyborn Hero Princess. Look at the flavour of this flavour text. The theming, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. 1-cost inkable, 2/2, not a lot to say here. It is our newest 1-cost 2/2 stat line, which we will always get more of these in future sets, and that's a good thing. It gives us more early shift targets for things. There's a lot of talk already about this being a people's favourite for, this has got to have a shift target, this has got to have a Floodborn. But yeah, 1-cost 2/2s see play for good reasons, and this, just the theming here is super on point. So yep, love to see it. And our final amber card at time of recording is Heart of Atlantis. Item, 4-cost uninkable and Life Giver. Exert, you pay 2 less ink for the next character you play this turn. It's what's keeping you, all of Atlantis, alive. Good old Milo. So let's just put a little scenario on the table here. If you curve Lantern, Dock, Atlantis, then on your turn 5, assuming you ink, you can play a 9-cost character. Or even just not a 9-cost character, just you have 9 character ink, 9 ink to play with as long as it's being contributed towards characters. So that's kind of insane, even if you don't play the Lantern and instead you play a turn 2 card with at least a 3 in its stat line, to be able to, or play the Simba to protect the dock, or just do something a bit more like character heavy, like to have some presence on the board. And miss the Lantern, and that's still 8 ink that you can play with on turn 5, and even 7 if you choose not to ink. So Yep, Lantern Sword play has fallen off. I feel like this has to see. I feel like this sees play, especially with Doc. Don't get me wrong. If you're playing this turn 4, you're taking away one of the best things about Doc, which is a turn for Mufasa or 5-cost character, similar strength 5-cost character. But who knows? Maybe this worth it just to have the even bigger turn 5. You've got to think this sees play. Yeah, love Heart of Atlantis. Back when the world was new and planet Earth was down on its luck, and everywhere gigantic brutes called Titans run amok. It was a nasty place. There was a mess wherever you stepped, where chaos raved and earthquakes and volcanoes never slept. Whoa, see it, girlfriend. And then along came Zeus. He hurled his thunderbolt. I'm not sorry. We've got, and then along came Zeus. Action song, 4-cost, uninkable. Pff, look at this art. I'm gonna let you in. I'm gonna give you some too much information right here. I think this was your man's first crush. Whoa! What a woman! Love it. Anyway, a character with 4-cost or more can exact the Zinglets for free. Deal 5 damage to a chosen character or location. So this is going to be one of those cards that we mentioned when we were looking at locations that we've already got some interaction for, and not all positive, to be able to take out opposing locations if they've got 5 willpower or less, which is all of them except for Forbidden Mountain. So depending on how good locations get, this becomes a staple, but just 5 damage to a character. And you think this with Sebastian from Amber, first chapter, with Singer 4 and a 2-cost. Stonks. Love this card. This will absolutely see play, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to play to play it without bursting into song. You go, girls. Next up in Steel, we've got Helga Sinclair, right-hand woman, Storyborn villain. Always happy to see some villains. 3-cost inkable, 2/4 stat line, which is that having 4 is pretty... Well, in current format, it's big. We're yet to see the rest of Inklands, obviously. But yeah, it's a nice stat line. And Challenger 2, becoming a 4/4 character when challenging. So this, again, is something else which combats a good chunk of the locations that we looked at. To be fair, a few of them survive. Agrabah survives, Maui's Place of Exile, Montanui. The ones that get taken out by her are Neverland and Deville Manor. Well, that's the point. But yeah, but still, good to be able to, like, if those locations become big, then that's good to be able to take those out. And again, just being able to hit 4 is going to be good, especially if we get more characters early game that are strong early game, that have that 4 willpower. I could absolutely see Helga Sinclair seeing play. And the last of the Steel cards, not a lot of love for Steel so far, but one of the earliest reveals, we've got Minnie Mouse Funky Spelunker, which every time I say it, I feel like I must be saying it wrong. But nonetheless, 1-cost inkable with a 0/3 stat line, and the ability Journey. While this character is at a location, she gets +2 strength. So 3's a nice willpower to have on a 1-drop, which already is a thing that people play just because it keeps out of range of common chip damage cards like Storm Rage On and Teeth and Ambitions. And yeah, being at location puts her up to a 2/3, which is a respectable stat line for only a 1-cost. Obviously, you have to pay that 1 ink to move her to a location. But again, if you're if it's Maui's Place of Exile, you've also then got Resist 1, so that could be quite a common play. Yeah, I can absolutely see Minnie making her way into decks, especially if Maui's Place of Exile becomes if that becomes meta. Then yeah, this probably is a really nice cheap partner for it. So yeah, love to see it. Moving on to Amethyst now, we've got the Sorcerer's Hat. Love this art. This is so stunning. Give me a foil of this. Give me an enchanted of this. Probably won't happen, but 2-cost inkable item. Incredible Energy. Exert, pay 1 ink. Name a card, then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's the named card, put that card into your hand. Otherwise, put it on top of your deck. So, you can immediately draw comparisons to things like, not comparisons, but you can bring up, it reminds you of cards like Reflection, which give you some control over the top cards of your deck. So that would allow you to guarantee that you are
drawing an extra card off of this. Reflection, I feel, isn't enough, but I feel if we get characters, like, again, there's things like Yzma, who can look at the top card of your deck and either put it on the bottom or keep it on the top. So if we can get more cards like that in Amethyst, where it's more consistent to have a card on the field which will allow you to scout the top card of your deck, then maybe this becomes good enough just as an extra draw a card per turn. Like Magic Mirror Saw play, again, fell all the way off Chapter 2, mostly because Amethyst already has a lot of good draw. And for that reason, maybe it doesn't need it, because Amethyst has already got all the draw in the world. But who knows? It's cheap. Being an item maybe makes a difference. Most of Amethyst's draw stuff is based on characters and songs, like Friends on the Other Side. So if there's more reason to want to play items, maybe it becomes something that gets looked at again. I'm not immediately convinced it makes its way in. I think Amethyst already has much stronger draw. But who knows? With enough support, perhaps it finds a use, especially, like, mainly because, probably, if anything, it will be because we can consistently scout our deck and it benefits us to have an item. So yeah, who knows if this actually becomes playable, but love the theming. And lastly for Amethyst, we've got Mama Odie, Voice of Wisdom, 6 cost uninkable, 3/6 stat line, quest for 2, and listen to your mama now. Whenever this character quests, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So, yeah, interesting. The first ability of this kind we've had on a card. Obviously, if they've been challenging you or you've been challenging them to put damage on your cards, on your characters, then you can use this to transfer it over to your opponent. If they've not allowed for that opportunity, there's also worlds where you self-damage your cards. I mean, there's already things like Teeth and Ambitions which damage both of you, and then you can take that damage that you took and move it onto them, so that's a nice combo. But who knows, maybe there become worlds where or even just board states where it's beneficial to play Smash or Fire the Cannons or whatever it might be on your own characters just to move them over to the opponent. I don't think we're there yet, but certainly something to keep in mind as an option that can be done. But yeah, more often than not, you'll just be challenging, taking some damage, and then putting the rest of that damage over to the opponent. Or we get more cards like Teeth and Ambitions, which make us take damage at the cost of doing something good. And then this is a way to circumvent that. So yeah, Mama Odie, there's definitely some potential here, and another great art. Let's go into our Ruby cards now. We've got I've Got a Dream, Action Song, 2 cost inkable. Ready chosen character of yours at a location. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Gain lore equal to that location's lore. So the Agrabah location is a 2 lore location card. So that alone, there's already some synergy to look at there, re-readying and getting to do, yeah, like Ruby basically getting some lore acceleration. Maybe it's enough. Not sure yet. I don't feel this isn't an immediate. Well, this is going straight in my deck. We need to see more and how well locations as a whole perform. But there's some potential here if locations end up being really good. So yeah. Next up, we've got Sumerian Talisman. 3 cost inkable item, Source of Magic. During your turn, whenever one of your characters is banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. Summon spirit from the dark. Show thyself before this arc. So this is interesting. It's some more draw for Ruby, which at the moment Ruby as an independent ink only has Queen of Hearts for when you're challenging, you can draw cards, and has Dinner Bell. Don't think I'm missing anything. So it's a draw option. Ruby is also home to the Challenger archetype in mentioned Queen of Hearts and Shere Khan. So like if you're already getting value from challenging by gaining lore or drawing cards from Queen of Hearts or Shere Khan, even if you're being banished, then you get like the card replaces itself. At least in overall card count, you're losing something on board, but sometimes that's going to be fine. So yeah, again, not convinced this immediately sees play. It almost definitely sees play in a Challenger archetype. Some support for that. So who knows how good that archetype becomes in the next meta? But yeah, great card to see.
Next up, one of the most exciting cards from all the reveals so far, in my opinion. We've got Prince Eric, Expert Helmsman. Look at this art, so beautiful. I've said before, I love that they're not afraid to like do very different art styles for the same characters. Wonderful. And don't he look dashing? 4-cost uninkable, 2/2. Surprise maneuver. When this character is banished, you may banish chosen character and quests for 2. The storm came out of nowhere, forcing Eric to turn back before he reached the mysterious structure at the edge of Lorcana. I don't think this is the Great Illuminary. I think the Great Illuminary is in the center. I think this is going to be referring to something else that we haven't had revealed yet, which is maybe Disney based, a location, or maybe is something independent to Lorcana, because we are seeing cards that are the Lorcana world and not from any specific Disney. But yeah, questing for 2. This ability so good. It reminds me of, it's Prince Philip, Dragon Slayer from Amber. When this character challenges and is banished, you may banish the challenged character. So there was like, that card always felt just a little bit too underwhelming because you have to be the one challenging. This does not make you make such a decision. Quest for 2, a staple in Mufasa, probably a staple in Ruby in general, to be honest. Who knows? Definitely in Mufasa, a great hit off Mufasa. Yeah, I'm really excited for this card. Really, like one of the best we've seen so far. Well done, Randy Bishop, and very deserving of the super rare, I think. Next up, we've got Jim Hawkins, Space Traveler. This is a very sentimental character for me. Everyone knows that Basil is my jam, Ratigan's my guy. But this is easily like top 3 Disney films of all time, and it is the one Disney film which will always, without a doubt, make me cry. I think it's such a beautiful film, and the song "I'm Still Here" with the scene that's playing, showing the flashback to the dad walking out on him and him chasing him along the dock and reaching out as his dad basically leaves and his mum crying. It's not an exact reflection, but that hits pretty home. Hits pretty close to home with me. So this has always been a character I've related to on a very strong level. So beautiful to see it, and again in that similar vein, my grandfather really was my father figure growing up. And obviously Long John Silver has that sort of like granddad relationship with him. I know it's kind of like a father figure, but that's the point. He's got granddad vibes, Granddad Silver. So yeah, a very sentimental series for me, and just a beautiful song. And I want a moment to be real, wanna touch things I don't feel, wanna hold on and feel I belong. And how can the world want me to change? They're the ones that stay the same. They don't know me 'cause I'm not here. Beautiful, beautiful song. Go and check out Treasure Planet if you've not. We have Storyborn Hero, 5-cost inkable, 4/4 stat line, quest for 2, and 2 abilities. This is it. When you play this character, you may play a location with cost 4 or less for free, which as it stands is all of them, and is our pretty much confirmation that we will get more expensive ones, although I think we could have assumed that already. So yeah, immediately get to throw that location down, and again, depending on the ink you've got to play with, you might be able to immediately move something there. And then take the helm. Whenever you play a location, this character may move there for free. So yeah, built into it, you get to immediately play the location, and then he gets to move there immediately. So this is one of our strongest location support characters we've got. If locations end up being good, then this is probably the best partner we've got for them so far. So I think quite literally the sky's the limit for Mr. Jim Hawkins. And look at this art, absolutely stunning. You're gonna rattle the stars, you are. Let's move on now to our Emerald cards. First of all, we've got Flotsam Riffraff, 3-cost inkable, 5/2 stat line, quest for 1, an eerie pair. Your character's named Jetsam, get +3 strength. And then the Jetsam, also Riffraff, 3-cost inkable, 2/2 stat line, quest for 2, ward, and eerie pair. Your character's name Flotsam, gain ward. So obviously becoming very much the theme for Flotsam and Jetsam. I mean, there are other characters that
support each other. But I feel like this will always be Flotsam and Jetsam's thing. They will eventually, like, there'll be one that gets resist and gives the other one resist, and all the keywords to come in the future. And I really like this. I think the more and more of these we get, this becomes a real playable archetype. And obviously we'll work with the Flotsam and Jetsam from first chapter, which gave evasive and rush to the other ones. So yeah, this can really start to stack to create some really annoying characters, and like adding 5 strength to this is kind of insane. So yeah, maybe just this is enough for these eels to have a place. So yeah, you'll have to see it. Next up, someone I'm very happy to see making their debut from The Rescuers Down Under. Great film. We've got Lyle Tiberius Rourke. 3-cost uninkable, 2/4 stat line, another villain, and 2 abilities. Well, now you know. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gains Reckless during their next turn. So one of the inherent things that like Emerald has always wanted to do, which is just be annoying, make the opponent play in ways that they don't want to, so they can't be questing or singing songs. Well, actually, no, they can sing to get around this. Yeah, they can sing to get around this. But again, stopping them from questing can be really annoying. The 4 keeps him out of range of a lot of stuff at the moment. Again, this could change based on future reveals. But yeah, this is an ability that can actually absolutely come up. It's been good for John Silver since first chapter. And thanks for volunteering. Whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 law. So there's some anti-aggro synergy here to talk about. Also just in combination with the Challenger archetype. We looked at the Sumerian Talisman. If one of your characters is banished in a challenge, you draw a card. So if you're playing Ruby Emerald, there's some worlds here where you have that and this out, and while you're challenging, you're getting all these additional effects. So yeah, like more to contribute towards that Challenger archetype, but also just towards Emerald's inherent lockout, the way it wants to lock the opponent out of the way they want to play the game. So yeah, big fan of Rourke. Next up, one of the earliest revealed, we've got Peter Pan, Lost Boy Leader. The Illuminaries needed someone to find a missing spellbook, and Peter was the first to volunteer. 4-cost inkable, 3/3 stat line, Dreamborn hero. I came to listen to the stories. Me too, Peter, me too. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain lore equal to that location's lore. So again, Agrabah is our highest lore at the moment with 2, but there are others that have 1. Again, you can have multiple locations, and you can move from one to the other. Again, this ability would only proc once per turn. But if you've got 2 locations out, there's nothing stopping you from moving from one to the other as your turns go on and keep making this lore gain. You don't ever need to be exerted, so they would literally need to find some removal to stop Peter Pan doing his thing. But there are ways to give him ward for other characters. So yeah, like again, something else that contributes towards locations and gives us a reason to want to play them. So yeah, Peter Pan could end up being very good. Could not be enough. We'll see. Next up, another Milo Thatch, Clever Cartographer. 1-cost, inkable, 2/2. Just another one. We talked about 1-cost 2/2s will always be relevant, will always be important, and we do have a Floodborn target for this Milo. So this super interesting, man. Milo Thatch, King of Atlantis. 7-cost, uninkable, 4/4 stat line, quest for 3. Shift 4, and so we can play this from turn 4, and the ability Take Them by Surprise. When this character is banished, return all opposing characters to their player's hands. So this is going to be Emerald's way of punishing overextension. It's not always the biggest punish because they do just go back to their hand, and depending on what that field was and how much ink they've got to play with, like against aggro, this might still be enough just to slow them down the turn. But even if not, if you do it to a field of 1 cost and 2 costs and they've got 5-6 ink, they probably immediately put it down, but you still slow them down. But against some of the bigger fields with higher cost characters, then this is going to upset their tempo. Don't get me wrong, there's a strong chance you return characters with come into play abilities. Ursula and other Amethyst cards are the first to come to mind, or the bounce things. But sometimes that's just going to be fine. Like, it's like the fact that you're just slowing them down and getting yourself another turn, especially in Emerald, which generally tends to be quite aggro anyway. So maybe that's all it needs to be able to slow them down a turn. The fact that it's just when this character is banished as well, it doesn't have to be banished in a challenge, so you could potentially offset this yourself by removing it through other means. Yeah, I've got a lot of hopes for Milo. And I think it's balanced. I think it's really balanced. Because again, there's worlds where they can immediately just put the same field down. Sometimes you give them advantage from like, okay, thanks for proccing my rabbit and my Ursula again, and now I'm gonna like. There are worlds where you like it helps your opponent, but you could say the same thing about Whole New World and similar cards. So yeah, I can absolutely see this having a place in the next meta. Great art as well. And next we have Morph, Space Goo, Storyborn Ally Alien, you jiggle-headed blob of mischief, 2-cost Inkable, 2/1 stat line, and Mimicry. You may play any character with shift on this character as if this character had any name. This changes so much for Emerald, man. Like, just like the element of surprise that it could be XX and X from Emerald, and then based on whatever ink you're playing, it opens even more possibilities of what comes down. I think a couple of the more interesting plays that it brings to mind are, yes, Beast Tragic Hero. You can now get down sooner, which is good. The ones that excite me the most, I think, are this makes Belle Hidden Archer a lot better, I think. As it stood, she was just coming online too late to often mean anything. But being able to play her in turn 3 and immediately shift. Again, it depends what you're playing against. Like, Smash exists. A long game Zeus is going to exist, and there'll be more ways of dealing with it. But I think this makes Belle a lot more playable. And it also opens us up to Fairy Godmother from Amethyst, who I really like. Just too slow at the moment, but I really think there's something there with the Floodborn Fairy Godmother. So it opens that up, and yeah, a bunch of other Floodborns that suddenly we can play cheaper that we didn't have a character to shift onto, at least a cheap enough one. So this opens up a lot of plays. It also increases the amount of chip damage cards. That, depending on how good Morph becomes, you just see even more chip cards in decks. And there's already a lot, especially in Steel. Most Ruby plays Teeth and Ambitions. So, yes, very easily dies to removal. But I still think it's going to be a meta-defining card. So, yeah, things we love to see. And then the final Emerald card is Ursula Deceiver. 2-cost Inkable, 1/3, Storyborn Villain Sorcerer, quest for 1. You'll never even miss it. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. This should have been their choice, just saying, but is what it is. Like, so much of the community is so glad to see this, just to be able to combat the opposing Be Prepared and the opposing Whole New World. Hot take, I don't think... I think having the threat of Be Prepared and Whole New World is generally pretty healthy for the game. But we're not here to talk about that. It is undeniable. This is really strong. In Perfect Worlds, you hold this until closer to the Be Prepared or the Whole New World turn. You don't play it on turn 2, really, because normally they mulligan the Be Prepared or the Whole New World. Sometimes Steel won't, depending on the rest of its hand. But most of the time, you'll wait. But even if you don't, you're just getting that early information from turn 2. And even if you're not hitting those cards, you're hitting the Storm Rage on, you're hitting Friends on the Other Side. There's lots of songs in format, more to come. So, yeah, I think this is bound to have a place in every single Emerald deck. Incredibly strong, and it's Ursula. We love it. We love it. We stan our Sea Witch. Next up, our first legendary item. We've got Lucky Dime, referred to in the lore. 7-cost uninkable item, and the ability number 1. Exert and pay 2 ink. Choose a character of yours and gain lore equal to their lore. So it's been confirmed on Twitter that... So a card like Tamatoa, who has additional lore based on items on the field. Say you've got 2 items on the field, so your Tamatoa has 3 lore. You play this Lucky Dime and choose the Tamatoa, you gain the 3 lore. Same with Flynn Rider from Emerald, the one with 4 lore, but minuses for every card in your opponent's hand.
that will whatever Flynn's current lore is. Like, if our opponent has no hand, then it's 4. Whereas if they've got 4 cards in their hand, so he has no lore, then this will be 0. It will always work like that. Yeah, you've got to think this sees play. It's expensive, but in many worlds, like, let's put it this way: if you've got 9 ink, then this is just a quest with my high lore character. Play this to basically quest again with them, or like get a massive spike in lore. Yeah, you got to think this ends up seeing play, and it brings back out some of those strong item cards. Like, again, Tamatoa sees some play. Maybe Bell's worth it now to reduce the cost of this. Not sure, but you've got to think there's going to be a place for Lucky Dime. Well, Alibaba had them 40 thieves, Scheherazade had 1,000 tales. But Master, you're in luck, 'cause up your sleeve you got a brand of magic never fails. You got some power in your corner now, some heavy ammunition in your camp. You got some punch, pizzazz, yazoo, and how. Well, all you gotta do is rub that lamp, and I'll say, okay, I'm good, I'm done. One of the most legendary songs in all of Disney. We finally have Friend Like Me. You ain't ever had a friend like me. God, that goes high. I am so out of practice singing properly. Action song, 5-cost inkable. Each player puts the top 3 cards of their deck into their inkwell, face down and exerted. So, such strong ramp for Sapphire. Also really ramping our opponent. Obviously, Sapphire already has that in things like Hades and Let It Go, but this is some real aggressive ramp to the opponent. It's also our first card, which gives us actual deck destruction. Obviously, there are cards that can make our let our opponent draw, but to immediately just put something straight into the inkwell, which at current means it's then completely inaccessible, is strong. There will be mill archetypes based around this. Steel Sapphire, man. Again, and if you're working with Amber, you have Ariel and Gaston that can sing this on turn 3. So from turn 4, you can be playing like 7-cost characters. Yeah, this will be defining. This is the newest. I don't think Rise of the Floodborn really had one of these, but Whole New World, I think, was the first big, like, this is a song that, like, is so powerful, but is a double-edged sword because it helps your opponent. And maybe that becomes a common thing. It's always a 5-cost song every other set, which is a, hey, help you both, but also sometimes potentially harm you both, depending on what you're discarding or what's being sent to the inkwell. Depending on the success of this as well, it also potentially changes just deck building in general. Because maybe, if you see this enough, then no longer is your 1 or 2 count of certain cards always safe. I'm not saying it completely takes away some things being a 1 or a 2 of, but if this sees enough play and is strong enough, it will influence how we build decks at its very core, just to make sure that we are not losing too many of our important pieces. And most decks run 4 of those important pieces as is, but hopefully you get my point that this will still potentially put you off running anything at a lower count. But again, depends how good this ends up being and how regularly you see it. Yeah, fantastic card that's bound to see a lot of play, some fantastic art, and always good to have another card representing the Genie. And that's it from me for now. This video is definitely overrun. I'll try and keep it under an hour. But yeah, so far, Into the Inklands looking really, really strong. Can't wait to see some more. I'll probably wait. This was like 41 cards we went through. I'll probably wait till we have like 20 to 25 before I do another set, because I really need to start doing shorter videos. But that's it from me for now. If you're brand new to the channel, please do subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit the like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.